Hi everyone, I'm going to talk to you today about Azure Active Directory and Identity Security. Azure Active Directory is a free component of your Microsoft 365 subscription, but there's three different levels to it. And today I'm going to talk to you about what those three levels are, some of what the features are within those. We're going to actually log into Azure Active Directory's management console. I'm going to show you a few things in there and talk about the importance of identity management. So let me first share a screen with you, screen one here. So as I mentioned, Azure Active Directory is a component of your Microsoft 365 subscription. Do not get it confused with Windows Active Directory. They're two completely separate things. Though they have very similar features, and Azure Active Directory is what some will call the modern way of managing devices and people and groups and all those similar things that you would do in a Windows Active Directory. Azure Active Directory can do most of those same things. When it comes to managing devices, that's where Intune or Microsoft's mobile endpoint management system comes into place, where you can apply policies and distribute software and do very similar things that you would do with a Windows Active Directory. But like I said, they are different things and they do connect to each other. It's very common for an organization to synchronize their devices and user accounts and security groups, distribution lists, and all those types of things from on-premise to cloud. But Azure Active Directory comes in three different flavors. There's the free version, which you just get out of the gate because you need an identity management system. Think of it if you just wanted hosted email, and you went to Microsoft and you bought a Microsoft 365, let's say an E1 license, which is Exchange Online, and you need username and password, right? And so that's where that comes from. Usernames, passwords, security groups are all managed out of Azure Active Directory. And like I said, we're going to dive into it in a minute, but I want to show you the different feature levels of it, of the free or basic, and then P1, P2, Premium 1, Premium 2. And basic is, like I said, it's basic. There's not a lot there. You do have multi-factor authentication capabilities. You don't have things like conditional access policies and a whole bunch of other stuff. And it doesn't really tell you when your users are at risk. So, your identity is basically your firewall to all of the stuff that's in the cloud, in Microsoft's cloud, or even integrated with other providers, because you can integrate Azure Active Directory just like you would if you're familiar with Okta, which is another identity management system that's very popular in the enterprises. Azure Active Directory and Okta do pretty much identically the exact same things, but Microsoft gives it to you for free. Okta you have to pay for. But the free version here, let's walk through this list over here. You do get it. Notice that the dark check boxes, you don't get MFA. Well, you get MFA, but you don't get some of the single sign-on stuff. So MFA comes in a couple of different flavors in Azure Active Directory. I'm going to show those to you. There is single sign-on capabilities. Notice this is unchecked here, but then you go down below and all the boxes are checked. So it's a little deceiving. Application access. You do have SAML integration, so you can use Azure Active Directory as a SAML source, firewalls, MFA, that kind of thing. You don't get the Defender for cloud apps, which is really, really cool, and I'll show you that. And let's see, you don't get group assignments. Conditional access policies. You do have RBAC, which is role-based access control, where you can limit what permissions a person has within your Active Directory, your Azure Active Directory. But you don't get things like conditional access policies, which can prevent, let's say, foreign country logon, or prevent users from synchronizing their OneDrive files to their personal PCs, or Teams or SharePoint sites to their personal PCs. You can actually restrict those types of things. And user self-service, you get a lot, but you don't get self-service password reset, which is an important thing if you have an on-premise Windows Active Directory that you have synced up here. Users want to be able to reset their password, and it will reduce your support tickets. And I'll stop there. The primary difference, if you think about it, free is very, very basic. You do get the core security components that Microsoft wants you to have, like multi-factor authentication. But when you get to Premium 1, you get the conditional access policies, which are extremely important from really giving a perimeter control, perimeter protection, and controlling or managing what users and devices can do within your environment. Like I said earlier, restricting personal devices from doing certain types of things. Intune is an important component of that, but you can at least do some very good basic stuff. The other thing that Premium 1 will get you is risk detection. It will tell you when your users are performing risky activities, like risky sign-on or after they log in. But Premium 2 has automation where Premium 1 doesn't. So Premium 1, and think of it like credit monitoring service, where it'll say, hey, you've got a problem here, users at risk, but Premium 2 will actually go to the next level and perform automated tasks to stop that in real time when the event is occurring. So let's dive in. I'm going to go over here to users here first, and this is a demo tenant, just so you know. And I'm going to show you the old MFA component, which is right here. There's two methods. There's what I call legacy, and there's modern. This is the legacy. This is what you get with free. And this is where you have to go in and manually enable or disable on a per person basis whether you want them to have multi-factor authentication. What's the problem with that? Well, one, you got to manually do it. There's no automation here whatsoever, and you have to manually do it for every individual. It's so easy for things to just slip through the cracks where a person forgets to turn this on for someone, and then they're open to the world. So this is a system that is still there, available to you. I see organizations still using it, but I do not recommend it. It's kind of like the last resort, and Microsoft has moved well beyond this form of multi-factor authentication management. Where they have moved to is over here in Azure Active Directory. And I'm going to click here. And let me just show you the basics here. You got users, and you got groups, and you got devices. Very similar to Windows Active Directory. And you've got management components in here. And I'm not going to go through the management components of this, because today I'm really focusing on identity management and security. This with a big focus on security. But also in the free component of Azure Active Directory for multi-factor authentication, where I just showed you the legacy one. This is where the modern one is at. Now, Microsoft kind of puts it, in my opinion, in the wrong spot, because they put it under properties, not under security. I'm going to show you this. There's no, there's multi-factor authentication here, which this is tied to really the old server-based system that they have, another older system. But for the free users, you have to go to properties, and then there's this thing called manage security defaults, just a link down here at the bottom, and then it's a click to turn it on. What this does is it turns on a whole bunch of Microsoft default security things. For example, requiring multi-factor authentication for any of these administrator accounts, requiring users to have multi-factor authentication, blocking legacy protocols like IMAP, SMTP, POP3, the very unsecured protocols. And I've seen numerous times where a quote hacker has gotten someone's usernames and passwords, fired up Outlook or some email client, and connected to an accountant's mailbox, and is sucking in all those person's emails and watching them go on, and it's gone completely undetected because a legacy protocol like POP3 or IMAP has been enabled or has not been turned off. Microsoft is in the process of turning these things off, but it's not going, it's in process. It's still available to you. So that's another strong reason why you need MFA turned on for all your users, and I'll get more into MFA in a minute. But what this checkbox does is it turns all these features on by default. One of the gotchas, though, I see occasionally is organizations with old multi-factor authentication equipment that cannot transmit secure email. There are workarounds for that, but that's kind of a gotcha when you turn this on. But more and more organizations, when we see them with, let's say Microsoft 365 Basic or Standard licensing, which has no security whatsoever, other than the basics. That's it. That's all you have choice for. You don't have any flexibility. You're really kind of forced into this situation if you want good MFA control that's automated. So that's where that's at. Again, Azure Active Directory properties, managed security defaults. So let's go back and we'll talk about Premium 1 and Premium 2 now. So this is a Premium 2 tenant. It's got, if I look here at licensing, you'll see that it has Microsoft 365 E5 licensing in here, so it's Premium 2. But let me talk about the differences between Premium 1 and Premium 2, kind of the core differences, not everything. The core differences are, if you go to security down here, you're going to see these reports here for risky users and risky sign-ins. And this is part of Microsoft's Defender for Identity. Defender for Identity is not only available to you in Azure Active Directory, but with the advanced, the P2 level stuff, you can put sensors on your domain controllers on premise and watch those too. Watch those for risky activity. So it will extend Microsoft's cloud cybersecurity, artificial intelligence to your on-premise, which is really, really a cool feature of P2. But you don't get that in P1. P1, like I said earlier, is like credit monitoring service. So it will tell you if your users are at risk. And like here, this is where my login was last night. It says I'm at medium risk, right? And how does it determine that? Well, it looks at each individual. It profiles it looks at them from a security perspective, profiles their activities as where are they logging in from? What device are they coming from? Is this a normal activity for this person? Is basically what it gets down to. And for the org, and then it throws on Microsoft's cyber intelligence on top of that for worldwide activity of what's known bad activity, let's call it, right? So it'll tell you they're at risk. For this is risk after sign in, and this is risk at sign in. And so you can see where I've got risk. It'll tell you, hey, what device you're coming from, what the risk information is, like new country, login, whatever it might be, because I've never logged in. So that's what Premium 1 does. It's pretty much, it's going to give you conditional access policies. I'm going to show you those in a second. And it'll tell you users at risk, but it's not going to do anything about it. So Premium 2 activates all the identity protection components. And that's where you can create these user risk and user sign-in policies. And the sign-in risk policies are, in this case, all users, risk low and above, everything's low, medium, high, and then what you want to do. So if it's low, we don't want to block access. We'll say, okay, if it's low or above, require MFA, right? Low, medium, high, normal activity isn't going to show up in the risk, but low, medium, high, you're going to go up there. So this would force MFA if you don't have MFA turned on all the time, which you should. But this will, make sure it gets triggered. The other one is cancel out of this, the user risk policy. This is if there's bad activity going on, stop it dead in its tracks. Normally I say medium and above. And if it's high, it's definitely a bad thing. So some organizations will set this to just be high and then block access. Other organizations will set this to medium and above and again, force something different like a password change, okay? If it sees a medium or above activity. Again, MFA is your key to this though. You want MFA turned on for all users unconditionally, has to be on, because passwords are no longer a thing that secure your environment. I see so many organizations let their users just have the same password for years and years and years, and then they wonder why they got hacked. And guess what's the first thing they turn on? Multi-factor authentication, because it really doesn't matter what the password is. once you get MFA in place, it's a showstopper for most hackers. It's much harder to get past MFA, especially 365 cloud. On-premise is a little different, but cloud, it's really, really hard, if not impossible, to get through MFA without really kind of phishing a user to get them to do some kind of activity like approve MFA, some kind of a social engineering thing. So MFA needs to be on for every user. So you get these additional policies in here. Speaking of MFA, real quick, I'm gonna back out of here and just jump over to this password reset section down here. These are where you choose the authentication methods for self-service password reset and multi-factor authentication. There's a couple other places. I'm not going to dive into the details of this, but email and mobile phone are the two that are checked by default. I do not recommend email because a lot of people will use their personal email address, and once that gets hacked, your employee's Gmail account gets hacked, then the hacker has access to multi-factor authentication validation, and the user would probably never even know that it happened. What you want is mobile app code and mobile phone, so SMS and the app on your phone. Those are the two that you want to use. The Microsoft Authenticator app is a great app. It has biometrics with it for a validation of who you are, fingerprint or facial recognition. Great product. And if a person changes a phone, they just download the re-authenticate into the Authenticator app, and all their codes come back, which is really, really a nice feature. They also have on-premise integration. This account doesn't have it, where you can do right back to your Windows Active Directory, which is really an important feature. It really helps reduce your support load. And then usage insights will tell you all who's registered and how they're registered and all those different things. You can dive into the details of that. So that's the basics of self-service password reset and MFA. There's more depth in there that I won't go into, like hardware tokens that you can use. Police departments use those all the time, or employees that don't have company phones, or they have HR policies that don't allow the use of personal devices. They'll hand out these Safe ID authentication tokens. And then let's go back over to security here and look at conditional access policies. So think of conditional access policies are like, what scenario do you want to allow or prevent or restrict or whatever it might be? And a very common one is block foreign country. So if you're a company in the United States, your employees typically travel on vacation to either Canada or Mexico. People travel all over the world, I know that, but those are the most common places. But some organizations that have, let's say, a security compliance requirement with the Department of Defense for CMMC2 or something like that, you can come in here and create a named location. I created this one called Block Foreign Countries. And in here, what you can do is you can block all countries and then keep unblocked things like the United States. So all the IP addresses in the world are registered. They know what country they're registered to. And so you can actually restrict logins from a particular country. So you create this thing called Block Foreign Country. Go over to policies and create the policy. And the policy looks like this. It says, this is for all users, for all cloud apps. And this is all cloud apps, meaning if you have a third-party application that's using Azure Active Directory as the identity management for single sign-on, that app will show up on this list, and that app will be controlled by this policy because it's all apps. The app is registered in the environment. The condition I have here is for browse all different any client type. No matter what you're authenticating with, this is going to apply to you. And you notice there's user risk, sign-in risks, device platforms. You can specifically say iOS or Android or Windows or Mac. And there's all different types of things. And the last thing down here is this block access, right? So if you're, I'm gonna for all users, all locations, so all users, all cloud apps, if you're in one of these named locations, I'm going to block your access. So every country except for the United States, because that's the one that was unchecked, would now be blocked. But you can get crazy with policies. There are things in here like let's do new policy here real quick. You can get into all kinds of crazy conditions. So let's do device platforms. Like I said earlier, any device type, right? Mac, Linux, they're all picked up. Linux, you wouldn't think Microsoft's picking up Mac and Linux, but they are. Then client apps, they're, like I said earlier, browser, mobile apps, Exchange, other things like that. But one of the things down here is this page where the grant is. One is require MFA. Two is require the device be marked compliant, meaning the device is registered to the environment, it's registered into Intune, and there's a compliance policy that looks how it's configured. And if it doesn't meet your configuration standards, like we won't allow personal devices, but we will allow corporate. So if it's a personal device, we're going to do one thing. Corporate, we do another. Require Microsoft approved apps. This is for like mobile devices where you say, okay, I want to protect my company's data. And when we let an employee go, I don't then want them walking off with our data, our company data, like all their all the salesperson's contacts or whatever it might be, right? And all their emails. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to check this box and say that your device, when you're using it to connect to our company, you have to use the Microsoft approved apps. The Outlook app, the Word, Excel, SharePoint, OneDrive apps. You have to use those apps. And the reason for that is you can now selectively wipe those devices when that employee leaves the company, meaning all your business data, you can just go in and go, whoop, gone, wipe it off the device. So there's a lot of cool stuff you can do with conditional access policies. Again, this is a premium 1 level thing that you have to have available to you. Premium 2, like I said, brings in the more of the RBAC controls, the PIM controls. For managing things, it brings in the automated prevention at sign in and after sign on. So even if you have multi-factor authentication turned on for everybody all the time, this will still watch their activity after they're signed on and actually stop things from happening. So there's a lot more with P2. I'm not going to get into the details of it. At a minimum, P1. Business Premium, if you're a smaller organization, less than 300 employees, that's your baseline Microsoft license. Anything less than that, don't even, in my opinion, from a security perspective, don't even bother. Get Business Premium. It's $20. Actually, it's 26 or something like that now. But get that because it's going to give you Premium 1. It's going to give you Intune for all your mobile device management. Mac, Windows, iOS, Android. It's all in there. You get Defender for Business, and Defender for Business is really, really cool. It's not the Defender you would think of from years and years ago. It's a very powerful antivirus system. Let's see if this is all active in here or not yet. Yep, here we go. Well, there's nothing in here, but it's an activation on your Windows device, and it will show you all kinds of cool telemetry data. I'm not going to show it in this video, but definitely do your research on Defender. But P2, in combination with that, can give you what they call Defender for Cloud Apps, or formerly Cloud App Security. It is built into there now. But Business Premium gets you Defender for Endpoint, all your antivirus system. It gets you Cloud App Security. It gets you your conditional access policies. It gets you your Intune for mobile device management, which includes Autopilot, meaning you send a laptop to your employee and they log in with their 365 credentials. The machine registers itself to Azure Active Directory as a device within the environment, just like it would with Windows Active Directory. And now you can push the applications down to the employees. They don't have to ever be in the office. There's no imaging of computers. That's all gone. So again, that's a Business Premium feature that you get. So encrypted email. You want to be able to send an encrypted email? Business Premium. So whole bunch of stuff, safe links, safe attachments, all in there. And I should probably do a video on Business Premium because it's a cool license. But that's the basics of Azure Active Directory. Premium 1, Premium 2, and Basic, and why you really need to get the higher end license. So I know that's really fast and quick coverage of Azure Active Directory, get yourself P1, and you have to get it for every employee. You can't just buy one license and throw it in the environment. It's a tenant-wide activation, so once you put it in your environment, every employee has to be licensed for it. Yes, it's worth the expense because you do not want to get hacked. You do not want your accounting person's email account to be compromised because you weren't willing to, put up the money to protect your business. It's insurance for your business. So get MFA, get Premium One, get these conditional access policies in place, lock down your environment because your identities, your employees' identities is what gives access to your business data. And you want to protect your intellectual property because, think about being on the customer side of the fence. What would a customer say if you said, oh yeah, we got hacked because we allowed our employees to never change their passwords and we don't have multi-factor authentication? What would they think, right? Like, are you crazy? You're not securing the data that I'm entrusting, my personal information that I'm trusting you with. You're not protecting your business. Why do I want to work with you? And that's why a lot of businesses who do get compromised can lose a solid third of their business just like that and have a couple $100,000 in expenses just from an investigation perspective of what just happened. And cyber insurance companies won't even insure you anymore unless you have multi-factor authentication in your environment. So get it, okay? So that's it for now. If you have any questions, just put them down in the comments. I'll answer them. I'll put a link to this here for the Azure Active Directory, the differences between them. But Premium One, go get it. Business Premium is the license you want to get. So that's it, and have a great day.